How are you today? It's Melissa with Hang In There. I'm grateful to all of you listening right now. Thank you for helping us spread our message. To anyone feeling hopeless today, we extend hope. To those of you struggling with PTSD from abuse you never deserved, the flashbacks, the fear, your pain is real and it matters. You are not walking this path alone. Your strength is echoed by many. To the brave parents who have faced an impossible choice, to protect your own mental health and fight the system, or stay in abuse just to remain close enough to shield your children, we stand beside you. No one should ever have to choose between survival and protection. We are fighting for a world where no parent ever has to make that choice again. To everyone who has escaped, you are inspirational, and may you heal. To all who have been abused or are currently living through it, along with everyone who has been affected by abuse, we fight for you, and we understand. You are not alone anymore. What is it about lying on the bathroom floor when you're triggered and panicking? Lying on old dirty towels, curled up and crying, watching yourself. Why does the cold, hard floor provide comfort? Is it the small space? The locked door? Maybe it's grounding. Is that weird? Is that just what provides me comfort? For many years, the bathroom was a safe space for me, my personal refuge. It was a small, private space where I could lock the door, cry freely without being harassed for doing it, and reassure myself that I was okay, that I was strong, or that it wasn't my fault. I could be alone and try to forget, or bring myself to a different place for a little while, a peaceful place, and then gather the strength to keep going. I remember using the bathroom often, to hide. Many times I said I had a stomach ache, just to get time alone, away from him. The bathroom was a place I could go when I was afraid, back then, in that other life. And I haven't really thought too much about that over the past 6 years. I think it was one of those things I just didn't want to think of or remember. I have had no reason to. When a survivor escapes an abusive relationship and finds a healthy one, a safe one, the fear doesn't just disappear. There's that lingering fear, the worry. What if this person who has been nothing but kind changes? What if I missed something? What if I still cannot trust myself? Last week, I was lying on the bathroom floor, hiding from everyone. Hiding from my son, who was excited to have dinner with us that night, who was coming over in minutes. Hiding from my husband, who was confused and worried. He tried to comfort me and I shut him out. I backed away. I quickly retreated to the bathroom, slowly closing the door in front of him. I laid on the bathroom floor for a long time, panicking, crying, dissociating. In that moment, I was not present. I was back in a different life, in a different house, in a different bathroom. I felt the weight of a different person lurking nearby, waiting for me. I felt the pressure of having to hurry and ignore my own needs so I wouldn't upset anyone, and so my son wouldn't be scared and see me hurting. I remembered the fakeness of having to hide my pain, my hurt, my fear, because no one understood, and no one helped me. I felt alone. In that moment, I wanted to be alone. The thoughts I was having were scattered back and forth. This life presently, trying desperately to bring me back from where I had gone, where I was in my mind right then. Back and forth. Where was I? The feelings were incredibly powerful, so real. I was lost. I wanted the thoughts to stop. My eyes burned from crying. They were scratchy. I stared at the wall. I stared at the floor. I was trying to use the skills I learned in therapy to bring myself to the present and keep myself there. As I laid on the bathroom floor, I stared up at the bottom legs of the vanity, the metal legs meeting the wood, the shelf, the plumbing of the sink, the towels on the floor. I stared at the silver strip where the tile met the wall, just staring and crying. I heard the sound of paws scratching at the bathroom door. It was my cats. Somehow they felt it too. I opened the door enough to let them in, and they helped to calm me down. They brought me back, and I touched their little faces and listened to them purr at me. They laid by me for a long time, in silence. I brought myself back to the present. I was safe. I was unaware of time. When I came out of the bathroom, my husband was there waiting. It had been over 2 hours. I have been out of an abusive environment for about 6 years, and I still get really frustrated at my responses to stress, to conflict, to people, to certain language and certain music, to driving, and to movies, TV shows, and certain clothes, certain stores, locations. I could keep going. When will my triggers stop hitting me so hard? I wish I knew. I get so frustrated with myself. Why do I keep slipping into the same coping patterns even now? Why does my body still default to the same survival responses even when I'm no longer in danger? I know I'm safe. I know this. Dissociation? PTSD? They don't play fair. PTSD is terribly convincing, faking your nervous system into reliving the feelings of trauma, as if it's happening all over again. For me, it's anything from a door closing loudly to words spoken in anger, things completely harmless to nearly anyone else, or a raised voice, or an abrupt acceleration in the car. A feeling, a memory, a particular tone of voice, certain words, so many things, all convincing my body to respond as if it's in danger. And I have to try to regulate it all. And it happens so fast, without me even realizing it. My brain cannot differentiate between then and now, so anything that even slightly echoes my past is deemed unsafe. And I relive it. Sometimes bringing me to panic, shaking, freezing, dissociating. It is extremely discouraging. I feel as if my body is not mine, and it's out of control. My mind feels as if it cannot be reasoned with. I often wonder if in certain situations, there will come a time when I can recognize the spiral and panic coming enough to stop and pause and explain how I'm feeling before I lose control of my response. It is so exhausting. It's disappointing, not only because I still struggle, but because it feels as if he still has an impact on my emotions, even now. And that feels incredibly unfair. I am safe now. I am loved, and I know these things. But at times, I cannot help but feel that I should be further along than I am. I have had years of therapy, thousands of dollars worth. And still, lately, the power of some of my triggers are unrelenting and loud and frustrating. I feel guilty. All of this isn't fair to my husband. At times, I feel too complicated to love. It can just be a word he says or a tone, and my stomach drops. I shut down well before I can even explain why. My body just reacts. Many times he doesn't even know why, because I don't want to explain it all. I sometimes react to things that he never means to hurt me with. It isn't fair to him. He is gentle with me, but he does not know everything. I have tried to explain, but my mind goes blank. It's very uncomfortable. So we've settled for talking about memories when they come up. If I remember something that I think will help him understand, and if I think I can tolerate talking about it, I try. Sometimes I just shut down and can't talk about it because it's too upsetting. And all that feels very unfair of me. He doesn't deserve that. I'm unpredictable at times because I don't know either, and I feel so sorry. But how can I explain it all? I just can't. I don't even know it all myself. And I really don't want to dig in. I don't want to find the memories, the moments that I've forgotten. It will ruin my day. It will give me bad dreams. I might panic. It will make me shut down, make me sad. Some days I don't want to think. I just want to bounce from one thing to the next and hope I don't get any powerful reminders. When I try to remember, I can't. It's strange. I just can't recall anything. When I actually seek it out, there's nothing there. And then when I don't want the reminders of that life, they flood me, or blindside me, haunt me. I feel bad. If my husband shows the slightest bit of frustration, I fall into the old patterns. I try to immediately appease or fix it, defend whatever it is so it's not so bad. I try to make his feelings of frustration or anger less. Feelings he is allowed to have and express because it scares me in so many ways. I dread the confrontation, the discussion. I'm afraid he might get too angry or frustrated. I'm afraid he will disappoint me. I'm scared because I cannot tolerate even the slightest elevation of anger, and I don't want to see him differently. I don't want to lose feelings for him. I don't want to shut him out or think less of him. I'm afraid of all of these things, even though I know he is kind, and I know he would never mean to hurt me. I'm afraid, and I don't know what to do, how to handle it. He deserves to share his feelings as much as I do. Sometimes I feel like I wouldn't want to deal with me if I were him. I hate that I'm making him worry, making him anxious. I do not want him to deal with all of my symptoms, and yet he does. He does it with tears in his eyes as he tells me how much he loves me. He supports me through the panic attacks, the nightmares, and the disruptions PTSD brings to our lives. And he seems to do it willingly, effortlessly, in just the right way, for me to feel loved, unconditionally. And yet I continue to feel bad. After all, this isn't what he fell in love with. Neither of us knew this would happen. I'm not the same as I was in the beginning. PTSD from prolonged abuse never ends when the relationship does. It is vicious, unrelenting, and sometimes disabling. Common PTSD symptoms in abuse survivors include flashbacks, nightmares, intrusive thoughts, emotional flooding when they are triggered, hypervigilance, being easily startled, being always on edge, and having trouble sleeping. It is common to avoid people, places, or situations that remind a person of the abuse or of their abuser. Feeling numb or a sense of detachment is common. Dissociation, shame, and guilt. It disrupts even the healthiest relationships that don't deserve the damage left behind. Many times PTSD survivors experience decreased emotional intimacy with partners, having a very real fear of sharing honest feelings or feeling afraid to get close to someone. It is also extremely difficult to trust anyone after leaving an abusive relationship. Oftentimes, survivors feel a strong sense of betrayal, making it very hard to allow anyone in. Being vulnerable feels unsafe. PTSD impairs a survivor's communication skills, leaving them struggling to explain themselves, struggling to express their honest feelings, or even trust their own feelings enough to share them. Emotional dysregulation is so common amongst abuse survivors, especially those who have experienced abuse over long periods of time. When your emotions feel overwhelming or come over you too fast, your brain struggles to process it all, leaving a survivor suddenly crying, shutting down, feeling numb or disconnected, sometimes from those they love most. It is very frustrating. Emotional dysregulation is not a flaw. It is not a weakness. It is another survival response. It is your brain trying to protect you using the tools it learned over time during traumatic experiences. Your brain learned to stay on high alert, to react quickly and protect you, and that kept you safe during the abuse and trauma. Unfortunately, that response doesn't always just turn off when you escape the abuse. Even years later, when something reminds your brain of a traumatic event, your body can still respond as if it's still in danger. PTSD often overlaps with depression and anxiety. Many times survivors internalize guilt, blame, and shame, which all have a huge impact on otherwise healthy relationships. Therapy is crucial for survivors, for themselves, their healing, their mental health, and therapy is very helpful for survivors prior to dating again. Statistically, 22 to 46% of women who experienced intimate partner violence reported recurrence of abuse within just 6 months. Another study showed that 23 to 56% of intimate partner violence survivors had experienced abuse in a previous relationship. Re-victimization is common. For many survivors who do not have support or access to therapy or healing resources, abuse becomes normal, a pattern that is very hard to break. Our children can develop PTSD from experiencing abuse too, either directly or even witnessing abuse in their homes. Children's brains are developing and are very sensitive to trauma. They realize much more than we give them credit for. Living in unsafe, unpredictable environments will shape how they see themselves and how they see others. If abuse is directed at a child, it leads to some of the same PTSD symptoms adult victims present with, including hypervigilance, low self-worth, emotional dysregulation, shame and guilt. If a child witnesses abuse, studies show it can be just as damaging, leaving them feeling helpless and terrified, wondering when it will turn on them, or leading them to blame themselves for not stepping in. Witnessing abuse from one parent to another teaches our children that it is normal to scream, threaten, or control, leading them to internalize messages such as, "This is what love looks like." More common PTSD symptoms in children include nightmares, bedwetting, aggressive play, difficulty focusing in school, startling easily, or having a big reaction to loud voices, slamming doors. Frequent headaches and stomach aches are common. Dissociation, staring off, zoning out, disconnecting, and reenacting abuse in pretend play. Children's brains get stuck in survival mode too, just like adult survivors. They absorb emotional energy and instability without needing to understand the details. Infants can even experience trauma from angry tones, yelling, screaming, and stress hormones a parent emits. PTSD happens to our babies too. They are not immune. The long-term risks of abuse in children mirror those of adult survivors. PTSD, anxiety, depression, relationship struggles, substance abuse, self-harm, risky behavior, and becoming abusers or victims in adult relationships. Our children need safe, consistent adults around them. They all deserve that. If they are lucky enough to get 2, that's incredible, but they need 1. And they need therapy and validation, saying things to them such as, "You didn't deserve that," or "What you saw was not okay," or "You are safe now," or one of my favorites, "This is not what love looks like." Children don't forget. Just like adult survivors, even if they have never been hit, they can carry the trauma of hearing their mother being screamed at every night with them into adulthood. Even if they have never been hit, but have had to walk on eggshells around an unpredictable father, they can hold deep, invisible wounds into their adult lives. Here's a very painful and undeniable statistic. In homes where one parent is physically abusive to the other, children are also abused in 40 to 70% of cases. Here's another one regarding non-physical abuse, which we all know is just as damaging. Children in homes where emotional abuse occurs between parents, approximately 30 to 60% of these children will experience emotional abuse or neglect themselves too. We cannot wait for broken bones to step in and protect our children. And that shouldn't be when the law finally steps in. This proves that when we protect one parent, one adult survivor, we are protecting their children too. June is PTSD Awareness Month. PTSD awareness as it relates to abuse is essential. It helps survivors understand the gravity of what they lived through, that it is not their fault, that it is not a weakness, but rather a very normal response to abnormal experiences. Awareness helps prevent re-victimization. Without awareness, it is unbelievably easy to fall into familiar patterns. Awareness gives language to feelings and invisible wounds. We've talked a lot about hypervigilance, how survivors have trouble with self-trust, and now we have discussed emotional dysregulation. These are all very common survival and coping mechanisms and are nothing to be ashamed of. Understanding that alleviates feelings of shame and guilt. Awareness may help to inspire our loved ones and friends to support with empathy and compassion instead of frustration and judgment. It is impossible to treat something you do not understand. PTSD awareness helps bridge the gap between surviving and truly healing. It opens the door to therapy, to establishing healthy boundaries, to emotional safety, and hopefully, over time, peace. Now that we understand more about the depth of harm abuse causes to survivors, including children, how it rewires the brain, and how PTSD from exposure to abuse reshapes the entire world of survivors and child survivors. With all of that in mind, it is important and reasonable to ask a question that deserves everyone's attention. Why, in a world that understands the devastating impacts of abuse, are non-abusive parents, survivors, still forced to choose between protecting their own mental health and shielding their children from a court system that consistently fails to protect them? According to the Leadership Council on Child Abuse and Interpersonal Violence, more than 58,000 children a year are ordered into unsupervised contact with physically or sexually abusive parents following divorce in the United States. That same source also noted that even when fathers had a history of domestic violence, they were allowed unsupervised visits with their children 83% of the time. Survivors who take the brave step to ask questions, make the phone calls, and really dig into how the family court system works often come to a devastating realization. The system is not built to protect them or their children. In fact, it fails them over and over again. What a double bind. We've talked about this before. Survivors know this all too well. And when it applies to our children, it's an excruciatingly painful choice we are forced to make. Either way, whether you choose to stay and endure continued abuse in order to protect your children, hoping to keep them close and also buffer or deflect the worst of the harm, or leave and risk losing your children, knowing that you may not be believed and that there's a very good possibility the family court system will hand over your babies to the very person you escaped, to the very abuse you fled from. The double bind survivors face in family court is one of the most heartbreaking and least talked about consequences of domestic abuse. It is a choice between two impossible outcomes, a no-win situation, and this one is created by a legal system that prioritizes parental rights over child safety. Family courts often will dismiss allegations of abuse as tactics in custody battles. Have you ever heard the term parental alienation? Parental alienation is the idea that one parent is actively trying to sabotage or strain a child's relationship with the other parent, using lies, manipulation, or emotional pressure. When parental alienation is real and valid, it is very harmful to children. In custody battles where abuse is involved, the protective parent, often the mother, may raise concerns about the other parent's abusive behavior. But all too often, instead of being believed, they are accused of parental alienation. It is a powerful threat abusers use to subdue, silence, and control the survivor, making them afraid to speak up, making them afraid to risk losing their children. And it works. It's enough of a threat for many to rethink and to stay. It was enough of a threat for me. It is so incredibly scary and humiliating. Just the thought of losing your kids is nauseating. And then to have the abuse turned on you? It's beyond wrong. Yet another double bind. If you speak up, you risk being accused of alienating. If you stay quiet, your child may be put in danger. In a recent study, mothers who allege abuse and then face accusations of parental alienation lose custody 73% of the time, even if the court acknowledges abuse. This is scary. So, who would still dare to ask survivors why they didn't just leave? This is a very big reason why. Let's discuss what survivors can do to improve their chances of being taken seriously. We have talked about this before in length. Document everything you can. Show a consistent and clear paper trail of incidents. Also save voicemails, texts, any messages that show threats, control, or manipulation. Record patterns of behavior, such as, "He threatens to withhold money if I don't do what he wants." Many times in the eyes of family court, leaving an abuser makes you a problem for them. They may view your story as he said, she said, especially if there are no bruises. Seeking reports from doctors, therapists, teachers, even shelter staff who have observed your trauma or your children's trauma can help you. Asking mandated reporters, such as teachers and pediatricians, to document or report any concerning behavior they notice can also help you. Courts like to say they prioritize children's well-being, so talk about how the abusive behavior is affecting your child's safety and emotional health. Talk about how your child has experienced regression, nightmares, or behavioral issues. And remember, it is reasonable to ask for supervised visits until a full evaluation is completed. If you have the access to a trauma-informed attorney or legal advocate from a shelter, work with them. They understand how abuse affects memory, behavior, and a survivor's presence in court. Survivors often appear emotional and overwhelmed, and these traits should not be used against them. If you don't have the money to hire an attorney, which is incredibly common, and one of the reasons many survivors stay, you can try reaching out to domestic violence legal clinics. They may offer free or low-cost legal support. Many shelters also have connections to legal support and know of attorneys who specialize in domestic abuse. You can also call your county courthouse and ask for a self-help clerk. They helped me a lot. I saved money doing what I could, using them as a resource. Please do your research and do it safely. The decision to stay or leave is deeply personal. Only you know the risks. And if you have children, only you know what they need most right now. Before we go any further, I would like to pause for a moment. If you're listening and your chest feels tight, or you feel overwhelmed or triggered, you are not alone. It's difficult to listen to heavy conversations. These are extremely emotional, raw, and very personal issues, but they are important. It takes energy to talk honestly about abuse, trauma, and survival. What we are doing right now matters. Listening matters. Speaking up matters. We are allowed to pause and really feel. In the middle of hard things, we are allowed to take care of ourselves. So let's close our eyes, settle ourselves, let ourselves be still. We have earned it. Please breathe. Surviving abuse is already a full-time fight. An incredibly isolating, frustrating, scary, and degrading battle. Survivors of abuse, sadly, face a much higher risk of PTSD than the general population. Statistically, 6.8% of adults and 5% of adolescents in the general U.S. population will develop PTSD in their lifetime. For adults who experience abuse, the 6.8% jumps to 20%, depending on the type and duration of abuse. And for children who experience abuse, the 5% jumps to 30 to 70%, depending on the type and duration of abuse. Abuse leaves lasting trauma to both adult and child survivors. It is undeniable, and the system must recognize this. Recognizing the connection between abuse and PTSD is essential to protecting survivors of all ages. And acknowledging this link is a necessary step in building trauma-informed systems that prioritize safety, healing, and long-term recovery. If you found yourself with a person who fooled you with kindness, then turned out to be unsafe, and now you're feeling trapped in abuse because you share children together, I am so sorry, and I understand. You didn't choose this. No one would. Once upon a time, you chose love, hope, and a bright and happy life. This is not your fault. You were betrayed. It breaks my heart to hear of children forced to endure court-ordered, unsupervised visitation with a parent they fear. Just being a parent shouldn't be a free pass to hurt a child. Why are the courts giving multiple chances to abusers who intentionally hurt their own children? If a teacher, neighbor, friend, or literally anyone else hurts a child, they are removed, banned for life. But if you hurt your own child, the court calls it parenting time. Abusers don't parent out of love, and they certainly do not seek custody out of love. They use it to continue to control, punish, and maintain power. Children and custody have become weapons, and the system keeps putting them right in the hands of the abusive parents. Our children are not bargaining chips. Post-separation abuse is very real, and this is just one form of it. I'm sorry if today felt heavy and maybe discouraging. It's been a really hard week, and I chose to share it with you. I know it wasn't fun to hear about, and I hope I didn't bring you down. The truth is that there are so many struggles and unknowns regarding living in abuse, escaping it, healing from it, and finding and maintaining healthy relationships after it, that it is complicated and exhausting, and it's not fair. Talking about it with you all, peeling back the layers of my own mind and experiences, and saying it out loud, it really helps me. It helps me to understand my own feelings, it helps me to process, and it helps me to feel less alone. So thank you. I know that if you're listening and can relate, that I'm not alone, and I'm finding silent support in that. We all need each other. I'm not sorry for speaking the truth, though, even when my voice shakes, even when I cry. I'm not sorry for being vulnerable and honest about the realities of what survivors face in our homes, with our children, with the courts, and the aftermath of it all. Silence has never helped to change anything. I'm not sorry for sharing uncomfortable experiences and information. We need awareness. We need to provoke a huge wake-up call for our leaders, for our courts and lawmakers. We need to be heard, understood. Our shelters understand, and they hear us. They see survivors and are often the first safe place a survivor goes to escape abuse. They offer protection, dignity, a safe place to breathe, and the support to possibly rebuild. They are essential, but they are severely underfunded. Survivors need a chance, a real one we can count on, without the fear of wondering, what will the court do? Or, will I be punished for trying to protect my kids? We need the chance to heal without having to constantly prove our pain. We need the chance to rebuild our lives without being held back by shame, poverty, or broken systems. Survivors deserve a world where leaving does not mean losing. We carry strength that most people will never understand. We are not looking for pity. We have overcome unimaginable times without it, alone. We are just asking to be heard, believed, supported, protected, and funded so we have a fighting chance at the life we deserve. We can't give up. As survivors, we are the experts on domestic violence. Imagine the change and the difference we can make in this world if our knowledge and lived experiences were taken seriously. What could change if survivors led the conversations, if survivors educated not just other women and young people, but were encouraged to enlighten shelter staff, therapists, judges, and lawmakers? We could change the system at its foundation and rebuild one where survivors and child survivors have a real chance. We could stop the cycle. Someone has to. We could rebuild a system that listens, protects, and demands abusers be held accountable for their actions. No more second chances. No more second chances when our children's safety is on the line. Too many survivors have been ignored, and our children have been taken too soon. Safety needs to come first. I want to genuinely thank you for listening today. Remember, we're stronger when we stop standing alone. Coming together, survivors, advocates, parents, professionals, we need to demand a system that protects the vulnerable, not the powerful. Raise your voice. Use your influence. Hold the system accountable. If you're wondering, how can I do this from where I am? You don't have to be close. Share your story. Donate to shelters and legal aid funds. Educate yourself and others. We can make a difference even from a distance. I know we can build a powerful army of support around survivors and child survivors. Before I go, please join me in honoring the souls of the innocent children whose lives have been lost at the hands of those meant to keep them safest. Please rest in peace, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. We see you. We fight for you, and we understand. You are not alone anymore.